seeing the challenges with youth and being part of a parachurch organization and trying to get them into the local church, as you just mentioned, do you see, though, that the youth today, especially in Sri Lanka, have you noticed any shift? In America, we see a shift. COVID, because we shut down, there was a huge shift, but there's also been a shift because of smartphones, we call them digital natives, this Generation Z, and with the aspect of globalization and how this is filtered around the world, I would suppose that it's not that much different in Sri Lanka. Is it, or am I wrong there?
No, the digitalization has affected us big time, partly because in the West it came, well, it was an explosion, but technology developed slowly in the West, whereas we suddenly took a leap to a technological world, because the technology was not something that was opened only to the elites. The poor also were exposed to technology, and even the poor, even if they can't afford to eat, they will have a smartphone, you know. So we were hit and caught unawares because we were not prepared for this, whereas the West was a little more prepared. For you also, I guess from the 90s, 1990s onwards, it was a leap that you all took, the West, but we were less prepared than that. So it has affected us a lot.
How has globalization affected how the youth of Sri Lanka are different than their parents' generation? I mean, every generation has the difference between their parents, but within an honor-shame culture, the structures and the expectations are very, very different, passed on from generation to generation. And you mentioned this within the book. There are a lot of things when you're talking about discipleship of someone from a different culture that you have to take into your mind that many Westerners aren't familiar with, but because of globalization, because of immigration, because of people moving in tragedies and displacement, the world is everywhere. And I think many in the West are still trying to grasp this because they see the world at their doorstep right now, and they don't understand the cultural challenges of those coming in from different cultures. In the area that I live in, there's a very large Indian population, very large, and it's growing exponentially right now. But many of those who share my skin tone don't always see or know how to interact, even though God calls us to.
Yeah.
What are the things that they need to be made aware of when we're talking about the challenges of those from more of an Asian background face that they themselves might have blind spots to?
Well, I think our the Asians are living in this mixture. Globalization has affected us. The digital world has affected us. More and more, our people are becoming individualistic. For example, there were retirement facilities was unheard of thing in our part of the world, because the children looked after their parents when they were old. That was a given. Now it has changed. Suddenly, retirement facilities are coming up. Children have gone abroad, and they don't feel bad about leaving their parents and going. They will send the money for them to be housed in retirement places, but they will send the money, which means still there is that community concept. So we are living in an in-between time. I think it's going to be a long time before our people lose that family orientation, the not the nuclear, but more of a more extended family, commitment to the extended family. And right and wrong is to a great extent determined by how you preserve the honor of your family. And we have to be very careful about that when we are discipling people. How can we honor our parents, but at the same time obey the Lord? And those are things that we have to keep talking to our children about. For example, our youth workers in Youth for Christ, when non-Christian youth come to our ministry, the workers go and meet the parents. So parents, relationship with parents for us is an indispensable part of youth work. You know, because you can't really have an influence upon the children if the parents are not with you. So these are things that we have to keep alert to always. And I think a lot of that honoring parents is it's biblical. I think the individualism in the West has reduced its importance in the West, but maybe that is a weakness in the West, because there is much more. I think there is much more that can come from family ties than the West is harvesting right now.